Hello and welcome to Module 3 of Research and Evaluation. This week we're going to be talking about issues related to selecting a research question. Now this module is really designed for two reasons. First, it's hopefully will give you a sense of how research questions are developed broadly. But second, this is really designed to serve as an impetus to get you to begin thinking about your research topic for this course. So by the end of this lecture, you should have the skills necessary to locate the resources for potential research ideas, state a research question, generate some hypotheses about what you expect to find were you to actually conduct the study, and begin to think about developing the proposal for your research study to test these hypotheses. So during the video portion of this lecture, I want to just kind of review some of the basic ideas about selecting a research topic. And I'm going to go through this, but I also want you to please take a look at the slides that I've posted because they also go into detail about what to do when you're selecting the research topic and will hopefully help you along as you go through that process this week. Okay. So now to begin, the very most important thing about selecting a research topic is just think about what are you interested in. What is that thing that you are just so fascinated by, captures your attention whenever you find articles about it, those kinds of things. It is so important that you find a topic that you're interested in because of the time and investment that you will spend with this topic. So in trying to begin to think about, well, what is it that I'm interested in? Think about what populations you're interested in. Is it adults, kids, inpatient psychiatric patients, outpatient psychiatric patients, families, whatever the population might be, kind of try to narrow it down. And then within the population that you're interested in, what area are you specifically interested in? So for example, some of you mentioned being interested in characteristics of offenders. And so you might want to narrow it down by what types of characteristics are you interested in? Would it be sort of personality characteristics like antisocial or psychopathic? Would it be more kind of historical factors or characteristics such as, history of trauma? Would it be more clinical factors like symptoms of mental health or substance abuse? And then once you sort of have your population and the general area that you're interested in, then you can go to the literature base, you can talk to your friends, you can talk to your mentors. I'm kind of interested in looking at, violence risk assessment with forensically hospitalized adult inpatients, for example. So if you go to the literature base, there's a wealth of information, and MSPP's library link has some great databases to search through social science articles. And some of the databases that I particularly like are the PsycInfo, Ovid, Medline. Those are all great databases that give you access to a lot of the social science articles that will have the literature for the populations in the areas that you're interested in. So that's my recommendation would be the next step is to go to the literature. Now, as you begin reading literature in the areas, you'll notice that there are some areas where, all of the research so far has produced a certain finding. That's a pretty robust finding, probably doesn't need replication. But you'll also find some gaps in either the populations that particular type of research deals with. Maybe there's a lot of research on violence risk assessment with adults, and there's only a little with adolescents, or specific measures that have been very effective in sort of assessment of violence risk with adults haven't necessarily been applied to adolescents. So you can kind of go through and find what's been done and what still needs to be done. In addition, when you're reading some of these articles, you'll really get a sense of what the literature has to say about these areas. But at the end of many articles, there's a section called Recommendations for Future Research. If you find articles that have these sections, read that carefully, because that can give you a good jumping off point to develop a research idea. And if they're recent articles, of course, that would be great. And if they're a little bit older, check to make sure that those research topics haven't already been sort of fleshed out. So once you sort of have gone to the literature, you've become familiar with the population or the specific area that you're interested in, you're probably going to get some more ideas about specific research questions. My advice when you begin with the research questions is keep it as simple as possible. Simple questions, simple methodology, cleaner results. That's sort of the goal here. And typically, a good research question, just to give you an idea, a good research question from my experience is, I deal with adolescents and their legal decision making, for example, with Miranda waivers, Miranda rights. And so one of the questions that I've asked in the past is, do adolescents who are in the community differ in their understanding and appreciation of Miranda rights from kids who are involved in the juvenile justice system? So this question has two groups, right? Kids in the community and kids in the juvenile justice system. And it's got two dependent variables, understanding and appreciation. So there's not too many factors there. It's manageable, it's simple, it's clear. Now, as you're sort of starting to develop your research question, you may want to think about how you're going to operationalize or how you're going to define your variables, how you're going to measure your variables. So in my case, what does understanding mean? Does that mean that it's understanding as assessed by a forensic evaluator in a Miranda waiver evaluation? Or it could be understanding as sort of a score on a series of measures that have been developed to specifically assess adolescents' understanding of Miranda rights. And there's an instrument called Instruments for Assessing Understanding and Appreciation of Miranda Rights, developed by Thomas Grisso. And that would be how I would operationalize both my understanding and my appreciation variables. So understanding is measured by comprehension of Miranda rights, comprehension of Miranda rights recognition, and comprehension of Miranda vocabulary. Those are three measures within that instrument. For appreciation, similar thing. It's a measure measured by the score on one of the measures within the instruments called the function of rights of interrogation. So now that I have my operational definitions, understanding and appreciation as measured by, these specific measures, then I can start to generate some hypotheses about what I think is going to happen. So, for example, previous research shows that understanding and appreciation are related to IQ. So the higher IQ, the better understanding and the better appreciation kids have of their Miranda rights. But previous research also shows that kids in the juvenile justice system tend to have lower IQ scores than kids in the general population. So taking this together, what I know about the previous research, I might hypothesize that kids in the community will have higher scores on measures of understanding as assessed by the comprehension of Miranda rights, and appreciation as assessed by function of rights of interrogation than kids of the same age in the juvenile justice system. So that would be my hypothesis.